Thousands broke the salt law, manufactured salt, and demonstrated in front of government salt factories. Foreign cloth was boycotted, liquor shops were picketed, and peasants refused to pay taxes, and village officials resigned. Forest people violated forest laws. The British government began arresting Congress leaders. This led to violent clashes. When Abdul Ghaffar Khan was arrested, angry crowds demonstrated in the streets of Peshawar, facing police firing. Many were killed. When Gandhiji was arrested, industrial workers at Sholapur attacked police posts, municipal buildings, law courts, and railway stations. The government responded with a policy of brutal repression. Peaceful satyagrahis were attacked. Women and children were beaten. More than 1 lakh people were arrested. Gandhiji once again decided to call off the movement and entered into a pact with Irwin on 5th March 1931. Gandhiji consented to participate in a round-table conference. Earlier, the Congress had boycotted the first round-table conference, so this was the second. The government agreed to release the political prisoners. However, at the second round-table conference in London, negotiations broke down. On his return to India, Gandhiji learnt that the British government imprisoned Ghaffar Khan and Jawaharlal Nehru. The Congress was declared illegal. Measures were imposed to prevent meetings. Demonstrations and boycotts were also declared illegal. Gandhiji relaunched the civil disobedience movement, but by then it had lost its momentum. Let us see the different social groups that participated in the movement. Why did they join? What did Swaraj mean to them? The rich peasant communities, like the Patidars and Jats, were active in the movement. Why? They were hard hit by the trade depression and falling prices. As their incomes decreased, they found it difficult to pay the revenue. The government refused to reduce the revenue. This led to widespread resentment. They not only organized their communities, but forced members to participate in the boycott programs. For the fight for Swaraj, they believed, was a struggle against high revenue. The poorer peasants were not interested in the lowering of the revenue demand. They were small tenants. Due to the depression, cash incomes became less. They found it difficult to pay rent. They wanted the unpaid rent to be removed. They joined a variety of radical movements. But this was the thought of the Congress. As the rich peasants and landlords might get upset, the Congress was unwilling to support the no rent campaign. Therefore, the relationship between the poor peasants and the Congress remained in doubt. In other words, the Congress did not support the poor peasants' demand of not paying rent. What about the business class? During World War I, Indian merchants and industrialists made huge profits and became powerful. They began to react against the British policies, as these policies restricted business activities. They wanted protection against imports of foreign goods. They formed two associations, the IICC in 1920 and the FICCI in 1927. The industrialists attacked British control over the Indian economy and joined the civil disobedience movement when it was first launched. How did they support the civil disobedience movement? They gave financial assistance and refused to buy and sell imported goods. This group saw Swaraj as a time when British restrictions on business would not longer exist, and trade and industry would flourish without any restrictions. But after the failure of the Round Table Conference, these business groups were no longer enthusiastic. They were worried about the spread of militant activities and about the long disruptions of business. The effect of the movement on the industrial working class. The industrial working class did not take part in the civil disobedience movement. The workers stayed away from the Congress. However, some workers did participate in the movement, adopting some of the ideas of Gandhian program, like boycott of foreign goods and their own movements against low wages and poor working conditions. There were strikes by railway workshops in 1930 and dock workers in 1932. Even in tin mines, thousands of workers protested, held rallies, and took part in boycott campaigns. Still, the Congress was reluctant to include workers due to their demands as a part of its program, for fear of alienation of the industrialists. So here also the Congress did not want to support the workers. They were afraid that the industrialists would not support the movement. Another feature of the movement was the large-scale participation of women. They participated in protest marches, broke the salt law, and picketed foreign cloth and liquor shops. Many were put into jail. In cities, women were from high caste families, and from rural areas, they came from rich peasant households. They began to see service to the nation as a sacred duty of women. However, the Congress was not too keen to allow women to hold any position of authority. It was more keen on their symbolic presence.